Hello everyone, I'm Dan Filgreen, and this is Shell Point Today for the weekend of June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. On today's show, we visit the next destination of our Academy Middle East tour, the tropical city of Salalah. But first, a quick note about LifeQuest. What if you're new to all this LifeQuest business? Why is it important, and how do you get started? We've got an introduction event that's perfect for you. Join Dawn Boren and Mary Franklin for Intro to LifeQuest, Friday morning at 10 a.m. in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands. This will teach the basics of LifeQuest, and it's also a free event. And later, Friday afternoon, we have a family musical presentation. Ella Wolf of Eagles Preserve was once an aspiring opera singer and has lent her voice to many events at Shell Point and the Village Church. But the Wolfs have quite the musical family as well, and their kids and grandkids are all coming to Shell Point to present a family musical program called Weaving of a Family Tapestry. Come join them Friday in the Grand Cypress Room for this family musical event. And then next Tuesday, our Academy tour through the Middle East continues with a rare sight, a tropical oasis in the desert called Salalah. Even the Queen of Sheba visited here to bring frankincense to King Solomon. Learn more about this exotic port at an Academy class Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the Grand Cypress Room. Adrian Kerr has more.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Professor Adrian Kerr. We're talking about our third stop in Oman, and that is Salalah. Thanks for joining me, Professor Kerr.
Thank you, Terry. It's a pleasure to be back again.
Ancient capital of incense, Salalah. Tell us a little bit about incense. We know it from those of us who are old enough to have seen incense in the 1970s. Is that the same?
Well, incense, the burning of incense goes back to very, very early times. For instance, probably about 1500 BC, the Egyptians used incense as a religious vapor to carry the spirits to the afterlife. So from very early days, Oman, which is a principal place where frankincense is produced, became very important. And the frankincense trade up through the Arabian Peninsula into Rome and then further east into Egypt, for instance, has been a very well-established, high-value luxury commodity, which has been valued now for over 3,000 years. Frankincense, of course, and myrrh are the two that we know best. Frankincense tends to be burnt, so you heat it with a charcoal, and it reaches a combustion temperature, and then it gives off these lovely aromatic vapors. It's the sap of a special type of tree that only grows in two places in the world, East Africa and Oman. And Oman is considered to have the highest quality frankincense. And I'll bring some frankincense to the talk so you can see it. And then myrrh, which is the other famous one from the Three Wise Men, that has a different odor. And it is burnt, but it's used for anointing, and it's a liquid type of incense. So the two are the most famous and the most valuable, and they vary in price depending on the quality.
And this is the place that it comes from.
This is still, after 3,000 years, it's the most significant producer of frankincense.
It's just amazing how you have the interest and then the knowledge to link these facts and present them and make a place come alive for us back through the ages.
Well, it's a fascinating part of the world, and the people are probably misrepresented in the West today. So the Arab culture and even the Iranian culture, there's a big difference between leadership of those countries and the fundamental people who live in them, as we know. And one shouldn't judge a nation by some hothead leaders or extreme leaders. You should judge the nation by the intrinsic value of the people themselves. And when I visited Iran and all these countries in the Middle East, even Egypt, I come back 3 weeks ago from Egypt, and they welcome American people. They welcome. Tell your friends to come and see us.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, and this sounds so beautiful. It still has the roadside stands, a tropical atmosphere. Beautiful place.
It's a really unusual geography because it's on the coast and it's at the bottom of a set of very high hills, and it traps moisture during the summer, and it's almost like San Francisco or even England in the summer. So you get 3 months of fog, mist, light rain, and that allows the area, very narrow area, 50 miles by 2 miles wide, to become vibrant, and there are woods and trees and exotic plants and exotic animals. And of course the frankincense tree grows there, and it's just this unique position, and basically desert, dry, Arabian, and the coastal area and the mountains behind which trap the moisture.
Will you have photos of the tree?
Photos of the tree and examples of frankincense.
Wonderful. You'll want to come and find out more about frankincense and the special place called Salalah in the Grand Cypress Room with Professor Adrian Kerr. All are welcome, and you may sign up at the door.
Coming up, we are replaying some of the week's best stories from ShellPoint TV. But before we do that, let's cover all of this weekend's happenings, Academy news, menus, and church news.
Welcome to the happening segment of ShellPoint TV. I'm Suzanne Zavada, and I'm here with Bev Chanley, and this is the weekend edition, so we will be going over everything happening on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll start off with Friday at 8:15 when the Stamp Ministry will be meeting in the Stamp Room on the island. Also at 8:15, we have a trip going out to Oshawa, Dominican Republic, a refuge from the Holocaust. Court pickups will begin at 8:15 on the island, 8:25 at the Woodlands, and 8:35 at Eagles Preserve. Then from 8:30 to 11:30, the marketplace will be in the administration courtyard on the island. At 9 o'clock, the Round Robin men's doubles tennis group will be out at the tennis courts at the Woodlands. And at 10 o'clock, we have an Intro to Life Quest meeting in the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands. At 10:15, Inquiring Minds will meet in the Osprey Room on the island. And then we move to the afternoon, where at 12:30, the Mixed Progressive Bridge group will be meeting in the game room at the Woodlands. At 1:15, we have table tennis in the Tarpon Room and the Quilters in the Osprey Room. At 1:30, the Vespers will be in the Community Room of the Arbor. And at 2 o'clock, we have Euchre in the Sable Room of the Woodlands. Also at 2 o'clock, we have a special program, Weaving of a Family Tapestry, the Wolfs, Muellers, and Petzels. This will be in the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands. At 2:45, the Vespers will be meeting in the Community Room of King's Crown, and will end Friday at 6:45 with game night in the Resident Activity Center. That's it for Friday. Now let's see Bev for Saturday.
Thanks, Suzanne. Saturday, we're going to start out at 8 o'clock, where you'll find Round Robin men's doubles tennis going on at the Woodlands tennis courts. At 9:45, Duplicate Bridge will be played in the Manatee Room on the island. 10:15, we have the Model Yacht Club sailing. That'll be down at the Woodlands Lake. At 1 o'clock, we have chess being played at the Library Lounge in the Resident Activity Center. Now 1:15 is the time for table tennis, which will be available all weekend unless otherwise noted. That's in the Tarpon Room down in the tunnel. At 3:15, it's time for basic line dancing. That'll be in the Health Club. Our last activity for Saturday is at 6:30, where we have Duplicate Bridge in the Manatee Room. Thanks for joining me Saturday. Here's Suzanne with your Sunday lineup.
Sunday will start off at 9 o'clock with Christian Life Studies in the game room at the Woodlands. And then Christian Life Studies will take place at 9:15 in the Village Church on the island. At 10:15, morning worship will be held in the Village Church on the island, and it'll also be broadcast live on ShellPoint TV Channel 12. At 2 o'clock, the Mixed Golf League will be out at the ShellPoint Golf Club. And then we'll end Sunday at 6:15 with the evening service in the Village Church on the island. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you back here on Monday.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath. I hope you're enjoying these long June days and having a wonderful weekend. I'd like to tell you about some Academy classes coming next week. On Monday, we have a Coffee with the Neighbor where we welcome facility operations managers to talk about what goes on behind the scenes. A ticket is required, available at either service desk. Please sign your name on the back for a drawing for a free Academy class. On Tuesday, Developing Skills on Windows 7 with Jim Plummer of Parkwood. And Salalah, Ancient Capital of Incense with Professor Adrian Kerr. We also have The Holistic Impact of Humor with my three favorite doctors, Nancy Spencer, Carol Clark, and Sue Stranahan. On Wednesday, we start Painting with Karen and Herb. That would be Karen Hubbard and Herb Sklar. On Thursday, B.F. Skinner Meets Moses, presented by Senior Pastor Andy Hawkins.
Menus for your weekend. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is grilled swordfish kebabs over vegetable pilaf and young peas. The dinner special is the seafood buffet for $14.95, and the soup of the day is lobster bisque. In the Island Cafe for lunch, enjoy a seafood basket with coleslaw and fries for $6.95. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $7.95. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Friday are lamb chops for $20.95 or veal marsala for $15.95. On Saturday, the Crystal Room is closed. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Saturday, there's a Philly cheesesteak with chips for $6.95. The dinner special is a stuffed cabbage roll with baked potatoes and mixed vegetables for $7.95. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Saturday are prime rib for $18.95 or grilled swordfish for $15.95. On Sunday, in the Crystal Room, you can have the Sunday brunch for $17.50. In the Island Cafe for lunch, enjoy a meat lover scramble with home fries for $6.95. And the dinner special is Chef's Choice for $7.95. And the Palm Grill is closed on Sundays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Greetings and welcome to Village Church Connections. We're here to talk about the weekend, and joining me is Pastor Andy Hawkins. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We have had a break for several weeks from the series that we have been enjoying.
That's right.
Sunday morning we have been in the book of Ephesians, and we're back into that this week.
We are. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where we're heading.
Well, it's kind of interesting. We're in the 4th chapter. It's where we were a couple of weeks ago, and the title of the message is Dressed for Exercise. It's kind of interesting. Obviously, I have a connection with my physical education background because I used to teach at West Virginia University in the College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences, and it's kind of interesting as you look at the metaphors that the New Testament uses. They have a lot of sort of physical activity and exercise kinds of metaphors because we're supposed to carry out the high calling that we've been given in the course of the things that we do for the kingdom of Christ. And so one of the ways we are told to do that is by taking off some clothes that weigh us down, and like sin in our lives or things that distract us from our priorities, and put on some clothes that enable us to compete effectively, just like an athlete is doing the very same things. We don't go out and compete in our street clothes. And in the same way, as a metaphor, the church is called upon to take off certain clothes and put on some others so that we can be fit and prepared to do the ministry that we're called upon to do. And so that's the kind of metaphor that Paul uses in the 4th chapter. And so we're calling it Dressed for Exercise. I hope people don't think that they have to wear their tennies to the church service.
We're not doing jumping jacks.
We're not going to do jumping jacks, but we are going to speak metaphorically about how the church is supposed to prepare itself or herself for the things that God calls us to do.
And then Sunday night, we started a few weeks ago in a series that explores the life of Noah.
That's right.
And we'll be coming back and picking that up.
That's
Tell
right.
us about that.
Well, first of all, we started the series on Noah, and then we had a tropical storm. So I think there may be a connection with there. I don't know. But we're coming back to that, and we're going to be starting the series in earnest. We sort of gave an overview of the series a couple of weeks ago. But the series that we are beginning in earnest starts with the 6th chapter of Genesis. And the story, as you might remember, goes all the way through chapter 9. So there are about 4 chapters associated with this story. And I don't know how long it'll take us to get through it, maybe 8 or 10 weeks actually. But we're going to look at the first part of the 6th chapter. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is what God was putting up with within the human race to bring him to that point where it was time to start fresh with a new family, with one family, the family of Noah. And so we're going to look at what set the stage for this great event. And so the issue in that particular message has to do with the clouds before the storm. That's what we're calling this message.
That's great. And of course, as always, both Sunday morning and Sunday night, our worship will be sweet. The choir will be sharing Sunday morning, and we look forward to all of that.
That's right.
So we invite you to join us Sunday morning at 10:15, Sunday night at 6:15, to hear more about the book of Ephesians and more about the story of Noah. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
It's time for our ShellPoint TV Weekend Review. We began this week with the inspiring story of Benno and Carla Benninga, who survived Nazi persecution in the Netherlands by hiding out for more than 2 years.
I was born in a small town in the Netherlands called Leeuwarden, capital of the province of Friesland. Friesland is a dairy province, The Holstein cows come from there, the white and black cows. That's what it's known for. And of course the dairy industry, although my father had a margarine factory. And people ask me, how come in the dairy country you make margarine? But in those days, the people exported the butter and ate the margarine.
I was born in The Hague, which is the seat of government in Holland.
Our mothers were cousins. And I knew Carla when she was a little girl, and I told her then, just grow up as fast as you can so we can get married. In 1940, May 10, the Germans invaded, and the first year and a half or so, they left us alone. But then all hell broke loose, and all the regulations came that we weren't allowed to do this and that. People had been picked up and were sent to concentration camps. So that's when my parents decided to go into hiding, which was very, very difficult. My father had 100 people working for him, and there wasn't one who offered to help us until my mother's seamstress came to us and put the key on the table. And when my mother said, what is that? She said, if it gets too hot for you, you come and stay with us. And they lived with 2 children in a small flat in Amsterdam, and they took us in too. But we could not stay there because the son had to go to work to Germany, and when they would come to pick him up, they would find us. So then we had to find another place, and that was under the smoke of Amsterdam in a small town. And these people had no money, but they figured the war is going to be over in a few months. So for a sum of money, they offered to take us in. Very small house, and we were in the attic most of the time. Unless she was in a good mood, we were allowed to sit in the living room. The woman started to abuse us terribly, physically and mentally. I read some books when she would allow us. We were playing some cards once in a while until she forbade that. We had a radio, and we would listen to the Allied radio from London, the Dutch radio, free Dutch. When she would let us, you know. But other than that, the local papers were all German, of course. We could not venture out, it was too dangerous. Even the neighbors weren't supposed to know that we were there. Although the woman shouted and screamed, so after the war, we found out that the whole village knew that we were there. And I'm telling you, I'm so unbelievably grateful for that whole village that they never told the Germans about us. I still don't understand how I survived those 2 years. Our godsend was the minister who lived there. He visited us, and he took my mother and sister in with them in the house next to the church. And then the last few weeks, my father and I were there too, until we were liberated.
November 41, the Germans came to the house. We all had to move to Amsterdam they wanted to have every Jew that was there in Amsterdam was easy target. We were allowed to take, I believe, our beds and our clothes, and that was about it. So we went into hiding, except unlike Benno, we all went different places. I was the first one picked up, which I considered lucky, and then they came for my parents, left my sister. The fact that my parents left my 13-year-old sister not really knowing whether people would come, but they did. So none of us knew where the other one was. I was 15 years old, and I had to have an optimistic view or I wouldn't be able to make it. My sister actually wasn't that far away, but I didn't know it. But finally I found out and was able to go see her. And about my parents, I didn't know anything. They found out that my parents were there and they picked them up, taken to a concentration camp in Holland by the name of Westerbork, which was basically a holding camp. They never killed anybody, but the trains to Germany went every Tuesday. But my parents were there afterwards at the time that the trains didn't run anymore. So they survived. I was able to get books to study. I think I was a year away from high school graduation. Went to take a typing course, very first thing I did when I was free. And then I found a job with the American forces. They had a headquarters in that town, and I spoke English, and I could type. So they gave me a job, and then when I went to see my parents, they gave me some sort of American Army jacket and some papers, and it took us, I think, 4 or 5 days to do 200 miles, because all the bridges were out. There were 3 bridges in Holland that you have to cross normally on a bridge, but they were down. It was a happy ending. There weren't very many people in Holland that survived as a whole family. In our family, we were the only ones. All the others were either gone or they had the family member missing.
My father lost all his brothers and sisters with their families. My grandfather was killed in Auschwitz. It's been a long time, and yet we still think a lot about that time, which sort of influenced part of our life.
We both went to the university.
Yeah, we both went to university, and her mother invited me from time to time for dinner. So I figured I should reciprocate. So I thought, well, I'll invite one of the daughters to the movie, and from then on, we dated. We were married in 1950. A week or so after my final exam, we boarded the New Amsterdam, and we came to America on the boat. America was the country that liberated us, and we were in awe of this fantastic country. And I wrote all the margarine companies in America, and the one company in Cincinnati accepted me. We were written up in the papers and all that, and we were invited by people. And I had to give a talk to the local accountants branch about the economic situation in Holland. I still don't know how I did it.
And what was it?
New York.
The hot dogs. And they said, would you like a hot dog? I said, I don't eat dogs. You know, I mean, you'd think you just never would think of.
Our daughter was born in 1952. Her name was Irene. And our son, Ron, was born in 55. The big shock of our life is when our daughter in 1971 went to Europe. They rented a little cottage. Gas heater was vented in instead of out. Our daughter, who was 19, died of carbon monoxide. You never get over it, obviously, but we were able to live. I was asked by Edison College. They have every year Holocaust Remembrance Week. And I talk to the students there, sometimes as many as 300, and they are very interested and ask a lot of good questions. And also at the Holocaust Museum in Naples, and so has Carla.
Yeah. I believe it was an 8th grade class, and I told them, you know, when this happened, I was exactly your age. When you're 15, 16, 17, that's when you grow up. So I had to make lots of decisions on my own, and they weren't used to, my sister, same thing, that we were really grown up having gone through all this.
It is so important that the story gets told, because pretty soon there won't be any survivors anymore.
Holland had, I believe, 140,000 Jews before the war, and only about 30,000 survived.
I still don't understand how I survived those 2 years in that condition. It's a miracle.
Coming up on Monday, we have a Health Connection class featuring Dr. Marilyn Cole. Let's hear some of her expertise on disease management.
Disease management can often take you in uncharted waters that you don't know which path to take. Well, Dr. Cole will be here to do a Shell Point Health Connections program on Monday, June 24th at 10:15 in the morning in the Manatee Room. This is a room location change since the social center will be getting its renovations. Dr. Cole, thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure, and I would like to welcome all of you to come to our talk. And the talk is really for you, geared around disease management, about diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, things that you're interested in, that you have questions about. I'm an internal medicine, pulmonary, and critical care physician at Lee Physician Group. I do a lot of change management with physicians and a lot more administration these days after 20-some years in practice, but certainly keep up to date and would be happy to share a lot of information with you.
It's going to be very informative, and not only just for those that have been diagnosed, but you also encourage those who maybe have a family history of chronic disease or have a loved one that can come and get some more information, correct?
Exactly. So if your family member, your neighbor, or you yourself have questions about lung disease, about heart disease, about strokes, about warning signs for strokes, and really just how do I manage the complexity of disease today, I think those things we could cover in that lecture that would be very helpful for everyone.
I was sitting in one of our support groups a couple of weeks ago, and a resident said he finally figured out he sat down and put all the pieces together of all of his information and made a little book for himself to track everything that he can take to each doctor's appointment. And he said it was so empowering to put all of that together. He felt that he was managing his life instead of everything else managing him.
And that's a wonderful thing to do. You go from specialist to specialist, and sometimes primary care doctors really have questions. So the first doctor tells you one thing, the second doctor tells you something else. It may mean the same thing, but with all this information, how do you decide about what course of therapy to take, what course of treatment? And sometimes it's confusing. It's confusing for our families, for physicians themselves. Really try to make good decisions about what you want or what you need, and ask the right questions.
Wow, we are lucky to have you coming to Shell Point to share all your knowledge. And one of the things before we started taping and rolling the film, you were really saying you encourage people to come with questions and think about things, because you've got it right up here in your head, and even though you have a planned speech, you really want to make this personal and try to answer as many questions as possible.
Exactly, because a lot general information is great, but most people really have one concern or one issue that they're puzzled about. And so if you bring those, I'd be happy to stay. I'm happy to answer questions and just try to give good advice about what about if I have 4 medicines, who do I ask? Do I ask the lung doctor, the heart doctor, the stomach doctor? Which doctor would be able to give me all that information?
Wow. Dr. Cole, we are very happy to have you at Shell Point, and we're lucky to have you in the Southwest Florida Florida community as well, putting all these pieces together for us. We look forward to your presentation. And that presentation is going to take place on Monday, June 24th at 10:15 a.m. in the Manatee Room. If you would like to sign up, you can do so at either service desk. And Dr. Cole, thanks once again, and hopefully we can make those rough waters not so rough for those that are dealing with some tough issues and help you manage your disease. For Dr. Cole, I'm Mary Franklin. Have a great, wonderful, healthy day.
Harry and Ella Wolf of Eagles Preserve are bringing all of their extended family here for a musical event Friday afternoon. Let's learn a little bit more about this couple.
Hello, I'm Willie Demarest. I'm here today with Harry and Ella Wolf. They live in Eagles Preserve. Harry, I understand you worked for Revlon in the Bronx as a chemist?
Yeah, 40 years I worked with them. And I was in the development of nail enamels and lipsticks.
Nail enamel?
Yeah. And, Charles Revston, who was my boss, was very particular, and he says, if you make a product, you have to wear it. And I had to wear it out, wear it every time I developed something. And, being in the Bronx, that was a terrific thing.
So you went to lunch with lipstick and nail enamel on?
Yes. It was so funny. Everybody turned around and looked.
Of course. And Ella?
Oh, I was born and raised in rural South Dakota to a musical family. My mother was a singer and taught piano. My father loved to listen to opera. My older sister was a great singer. And it never occurred to me, I wonder if I really have a voice or not, I just wanted to do it. And I started studying singing when I was 13, and I actually left home when I was 17 to pursue a career as an opera singer. Fought against a few obstacles along the way to get there. It takes quite a long time. I would say pretty nearly 3 months before the muscles are ready to respond to all this. You have to exaggerate everything when you first begin to teach it to a beginner, and then it becomes internalized, and you can't, basically you might see some movement here, but your whole body is part of this vocal instrument.
And then you came here to Shell Point,
and then,
you probably, probably thought you were retiring, right?
I thought I was retiring, and at the first concert I went to at Shell Point, Randy Woods came out to mingle among us, and I introduced myself, and I said, do you think that you could use another soprano in choir? And he said, oh yes, we could. And well, next thing you know, I was singing O Holy Night in the first Christmas Eve service. It's been a challenge, it's been a discipline. It's something as a child I didn't realize it was a gift.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us and with the TV audience. Thanks for listening.
Then sings my soul, my Savior, God to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art! How great thou art! How great thou
Next week, Paul Yakovich is taking us behind the scenes of facility operations. Let's get a preview.
Hello, everyone. I have a special guest today, Paul Yakovich, Director of Shell Point Facilities Operations. Thank you for joining me, Paul.
It's my pleasure.
Facility operations, it just occurs to me that you have the staff that is so fortunate to get to know people personally.
That's exactly right. One of the things that we constantly talk about, and we're very proud of, by the way, is that with the staff in the facility operations and then property management, we're in our residents' homes every day. The call center is talking with them every day, and our maintenance and housekeeping staff are physically interacting with the residents in their homes, and we take that. That's a point of pride with us.
Oh, and just imagine to live in a situation where you can call a known person to come in and help you with a variety of details, and you know so many things are being taken care of professionally.
Exactly, and you know, the mantra for the call center is "One call does it all," and I'm extremely proud of the ladies up there and what they do. The personal relationship that we have with our staff in property management and maintenance is not accidental, because we deliberately, habitually assign maintenance and housekeepers to specific buildings and specific apartments, so the residents have an opportunity to get to know them and feel comfortable with them.
Let's talk just briefly about each of the people we're going to focus on in your area. Tony Arias, Environmental Services Manager. Tony is always smiling.
Correct. I wish I could bottle his energy and his enthusiasm. Tony's primary area of responsibility is the island. He has all the housekeeping functions to include the assisted living and the skilled nursing facility, and he is directly responsible for the commercial laundry operation that we have on the island as well. When you look at the number of apartments that are cleaned every week and the tons, I'm speaking tons of laundry that is processed every week, it's strictly, it's phenomenal. It's just really astounding to think of the numbers and to think of the responsibility that he has. And like you said, he always does it with a smile.
I mean, let's talk just briefly. What are all these linens?
The primary challenge is providing linens to independent living on the island. So that's sheets, pillowcases, towels, everything that our residents need for their daily activities. But then again, for activities, the pool towels, we provide linen support for all the dining venues as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Paul Bertones, Central Plant Manager. What is the Central Plant?
Paul has two aspects of responsibility. The first and most important is the Central Plant, or is commonly known as the chiller plant. Mm-hmm. The plant circulates water to every aspect of Shell Point, every neighborhood, and it provides our air conditioning. He's also responsible for all the pumps and the hot water systems for all our buildings. And as an aside, he and his staff service all the appliances and local air conditioning units that we have in our buildings as well. So you multiply 2,500 some odd residents and all the buildings and all the apartments, and that's a lot of territory for a department to cover.
Then we have Sean Griffiths, Facilities Manager.
Correct. Sean, again, he has a story as his own. I hired Sean as a general maintenance man about 11 years ago. And then he was quickly promoted because of his skill and his enthusiasm to be healthcare maintenance, and he took care of the pavilion for years and knows the ins and outs of the pavilion and its systems tremendously. Then we promoted him to a nighttime position where he would work 3 to 11, and he was responsible for all the systems on the island after hours. So during that time period, he gained knowledge of all the systems, and I'm talking fire and the chiller plant, all the pumps, all the air conditionings, all the alarm and systems and he has a tremendous amount of knowledge about the property. Then we had the opportunity recently to promote him to management, and he is now responsible managing all the maintenance functions for Shell Point.
Then, last but not least, Kevin May, Property Manager of the Woodlands.
Yes, newest member of our management team at the Woodlands and Eagles Preserve. Kevin essentially has the same function as Tony Arias on the island, except his are the 4 towers at the Woodlands and the 10 buildings out at Eagles Preserve. And he runs all the housekeeping functions. But also as property manager, we integrate them into the maintenance aspect, because when they're out and about on property, it's another set of educated eyes that can find things that need repair repair, even if it needs a touch-up for paint, or it could be a grounds issue, whatever the issue may be, so we can keep the property as looking top-notch up to Shell Point standards as we can.
Well, I can only speak for myself, but I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be amazed and feel really good about meeting the people who make all of this happen.
Without a doubt. This doesn't happen unless you have a great team, and I could brag on my team all along. From the ladies in the call center who go 24/7, to our new security team that's on the gates with Securitas, to the day-to-day operations of housekeeping and maintenance and all the other facilities functions that we have here. I am blessed to be in a position to have such a great number of people. They make my job really, really easy. And I hope when the residents here are asked the questions about the number of work orders are produced, the tens of thousands of gallons of water that course through the pipes every day, the tons of laundry, just the sheer number of apartments that we clean on a weekly basis, and how we do that. And oh, by the way, when there's a change because of a storm or because of a holiday, and how we address all those issues, you just keep on going. It's again, I'm proud to be a part of the machine that makes all this happen.
Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Join us. Coffee with a neighbor, a little coffee, a little treat, a chance to get to meet 4 staff people at Shell Point.
Ruth Duber spoke with some of the vendors who bring their wares to the weekly Shell Point Marketplace every Friday morning.
Hello, I'm Ruth Duber, and this is not what's cooking at Shell Point. But what we're looking at here is what goes into all the beautiful recipes that I have. And I wanted to have you meet Colleen and Jim. He'll be here in a minute. Colleen and Jim are such a part of Shell Point. They're so wonderful about knowing all of our names and exactly what we want and so forth, and they have such beautiful things. I want to know, Colleen, how did you get into this business?
Oh, it was just a complete stumble, actually. As the economy fell, I was into mold remediation. I trained water restoration companies how to do mold removal and replacement.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was awesome, actually. Especially after Charlie, there was a lot of work to do. And then Jimmy is a professional painter, or was a professional painter. And he did a lot of really, really good work. And all of a sudden, that all went away. All the jobs stopped. And a neighbor is in this business, and she's an elderly woman now, and she took us up and she said, let me, see if it'll work. And we worked with her every Saturday at Cape Coral Market. And at the end of that season, we worked one season. At the end of the season, I was ready to go on my own, and Jimmy and I, we just decided we're going to do it, and we did, and we've been doing it ever since.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. We love this business.
You do.
I was raised in northwestern Massachusetts.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, in the mountains of Massachusetts. And my grandfather and his father before him, they all had farms, and where they farmed produce, fresh produce. And my Pippi, his specialty was tomatoes. And my brother and I used to sit in his tomato patch and just eat tomatoes with a bottle of salt. We would take the jar of salt and just eat all of his tomatoes. Well, not all, because Mimera had to can.
Okay,
for the winter,
right. Okay. Alrighty.
Then we had the best corn, and we always had the best of everything. And that's what we look for when we, when we buy our produce. We look for that quality because we grew up like that. Jim's mother, in fact, grew up in Belgium, and she, her uncle had a produce market. So in Belgium.
Hi, Jim.
So our quality is like what we grew up with. We look for that type of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
and everybody
here
we can tell. We can tell because what we take home lasts so much longer than it does at the market. And I want to show this off. Tell us about this.
Well, we started at the Cape Coral Market independently as C&J Produce back in 2009. That was our first award, best, let's see, what was our best presentation.
Okay.
And then 2010, we got customer favorite, where all the customers vote for you, and they bring it up to the Cape Coral Chamber desk. So we won that in 2010 and 2011, and then the grand prize in 2012, Vendor of the Year.
Oh, wonderful.
So we've, in the past
Well,
4
that's
years,
great.
have received 4 awards. And it's exceptional
Oh,
for
my
us.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
they appreciate good quality, and that's what you got.
Yeah,
that's
they
for
do.
sure.
And we got so many regular customers that it's just, you know, it's a pleasure, and it's one of my mind games that I play to remember a person's name every week.
Yeah, well, you do a good job at that.
I try
Yeah.
really hard to remember a person's name every week. Now I got Adam. He's going to be my name next week.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking with
welcome.
me.
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more great veggies as
we'll
long
be
as they
here.
last, right?
As
okay.
long as they last.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for now. Bye-bye. And this is the man with the gorgeous orchids. I'm not even sure of your name, but
John.
you know John.
Yes.
Okay, John. Yeah. How did you happen to get into this business of the orchids?
It
Your
was
father is in it, isn't he?
my father and I started the business.
Okay.
We just started with our landscaping, and all our friends and relatives and neighbors all enjoyed what we were doing and wanted a piece of it. And
That's
we
wonderful.
kind of grew
And
from
where
there.
is that now? Is that
Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie? Okay. You come all this way every week?
Yes.
Oh
Yep.
my goodness.
We do different farmers markets. We do,
Oh, do you?
this one, and then we did one yesterday, and I'll do one tomorrow, and then
Okay.
go home.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I have purchased orchids here, and you have a wonderful thing that you
Thanks.
do for us who don't have any space. Actually, I had a beautiful orchid, and it stopped blooming, and I brought it back to you. And when I bought another orchid, you gave me a discount.
You get a
on it.
discount,
And
yeah.
so I think that's wonderful that he appreciates the fact that we don't really have the room to keep the orchids
Right.
until they bloom
We'll
again, like
rebloom
6
them,
months
and
or a year. Yeah.
You keep the blooms, and we'll rebloom them.
Hey, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you so much,
You're
and
very
good luck
much.
with your business.
All righty, thank you.
Bye-bye. And this lady, and I'm sorry, your
My
name?
name is Pat.
Pat?
Mhm.
Okay. Pat is here with her wonderful products. Where do most of these come from, Pat?
Well, most of these come from a distributor, and we rebag them in three different sizes for the consumer. And it's not a local product. It's what we call a specialty at the farmer's market.
Specialty, okay.
And we do have, as a local product, handmade granola and energy bars.
Oh, I see.
And that is our
Okay.
local product.
Yeah, that's what
and
this
that's
would be.
around the corner here.
Yeah.
But these here are mostly dried fruits and seeds. They're all edible, and they're all very healthy.
How did you happen to get into this?
Well, I guess reinvented myself after.
Oh, that's a wonderful story.
After
Maybe
you know,
some
being
struggles?
laid off.
Okay.
You know, so we kind of, my husband and I reinvented ourselves so that we could have a little bit
That's
of an
a
income.
wonderful story. Well, good luck to you. Yeah.
Well,
good
thank
luck.
you.
And thank you very much for talking with us.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And Corinne is here with her honey. Now let me ask you, how did you get started in this?
Well, I took a Beekeeping 101 class at the Extension office downtown Fort Myers, and I started with one hive. I have 9 hives in my backyard now, and this is my first bumper crop extraction that I had this year, yes.
Okay.
Last year and the prior, I just had enough for myself and my friends. I got about 30 gallons a couple weeks ago, so it is a lot of honey, yes.
So you found out other things to do with it? What is that?
That's beeswax.
Oh, it is?
That's
Oh,
beeswax.
okay.
I'm going to attempt to make candles, but I haven't gotten that far.
You haven't gotten that far yet. Okay, is there any particular type of honey that it is?
I have one that's black mangrove, and then the rest is wildflower. I have one of my hives is in the middle of a mangrove swamp, so I know for a fact that that's pure black mangrove honey. But the other ones came from my backyard, and there's so much blooming now that I can't identify like a particular floral source.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Well, it's certainly a wonderful display and a great thing to have here in Florida. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to Show Point.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
And this is Carrie, and she has, obviously, you see, soaps. Carrie, the name of your company is?
Paradise Handmade Soap Company.
Okay, and where are you located?
I'm out of Cape Coral.
Out of Cape Coral. Okay. How did you get started in this particular business?
I got started by making Christmas presents one year with my husband. And we just
Okay.
never stopped making soap. We made 24 pounds of soap, gave it all away, got so much praise from everybody. We just kept on making it. And now I'm at 6 farmers markets.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
have a website. And this is what I do full time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you certainly have some interesting things. Explain a little bit about the different types
My
here?
my soaps are all natural. That's an olive oil soap base that we use for the soaps. And then we add other ingredients like natural oxides for the colors. I put herbs in there, essential oils, fragrance oils, things like castor oil, grapeseed oil. So it's a really nice bar of soap for your skin, and no detergents. And then I sell things like my glycerin bars. This is a glycerin loofah bar. And then I've got glycerin fruit bars, natural soy candles, natural lip balms, and all-natural goat's milk and honey shea butter lotions.
Oh my goodness.
And just an assortment of products. Brand new item that we're just brought out today is it's an air freshener sachet. These are nice for drawers, your car, small rooms, bathroom, and they last about 3 to 6 months.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, you've got a beautiful display here.
Thank you.
We wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
And keep coming back to Shell Point because
Will
we'd love
do.
to have you.
I love it here.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.
Norm and Grace Arnold of Telladora knew Glenda Stephenson when she was a little girl. Let's hear more about their lives growing up in Strongsville, Ohio.
I was born in Hamlet, North Carolina. Hamlet is a small railroad town, and my dad was a railway mail clerk on a train that ran in and out of that town every day, and so that was where I was raised until I graduated from high school. My sister is Val Zipfel. She lives in Kings Crown now. After getting out of high school, I moved to Cleveland and lived with my sister and worked in a bank in Cleveland, Ohio. Grace was working with my sister over in Cleveland, and she arranged a blind date for us. One of those situations where both of us finally agreed just so that we'd get her off our backs. And that was 58 years ago, and we still have her on our backs because she lives here at Shell Point now.
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but spent most of my life in Strongsville, Ohio, and that's where I graduated high school. We only had one high school and probably a graduating class of about 250. It's grown considerably since then. I think Strongsville is probably well known because the toll road goes through there just south of Cleveland. We went to a small little church in Strongsville, Ohio, and I cannot remember the exact time that I met Norm and Grace, but they began attending that church. And it wasn't very long, and our families became fast friends.
The church was a Strongsville missionary church, little church.
Probably about 125 people most of the time.
You knew
everybody. I was probably about 4th grade when Norm and Grace came. The church was, as we said, it was small, but they had a real heart for young people.
We had the distinction of taking a group of kids to Tulsa, Oklahoma to a national conference where I directed a kazoo band.
Our denomination had a youth conference every year that would be in a different location, and we would take a large group of young people.
We'd go to Chippewa Lake every year. We had Strongsville Day out at Chippewa Lake, which is an amusement park type thing.
Yeah, small little amusement park. Of course, we were also close enough to Cedar Point that we went there quite often.
But Chippewa Lake was a nickel a ticket for a ride.
Yeah.
Cedar Point cost a little more.
One of the joys that we had as I was growing up was our families went camping together. And we started out in tents. And my family had 6 kids. Their family had 4. So there was quite a group of us. And I can remember trips to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where their boys all got very sunburned heads, and we had to wear tennis shoes because the crabs were so bad you couldn't swim without getting bit. And I remember the campfires in the evening and sharing our meals together. It was a very precious time.
They had movies every night, gave candy away after the movies for all the kids, and I don't know if the kids would want anything better than that. And then we had pancake breakfast.
Yeah. I can remember playing big games of kickball and spud. We played that by the hour.
Yes.
And a little bit of softball, and you weren't bad. One time at church camp, I was riding my bike and I was going down a hill. It was a dirt gravel hill and I couldn't stop, and I went through a barbed wire fence and I tangled up my finger and I had a ring on my finger, and it was rather messy and there was no way I could get that ring off my finger. And Norm went looking through his toolbox and found a little hacksaw, and I can remember him working and working and working to get that ring off my finger, and eventually did.
In those days, you didn't have seat belts in automobiles and no requirements, and we had a station wagon, and I can remember all of us loading into our station wagon to go to the circus and stopping by a fast food restaurant and watching the expression on people's faces when they saw us coming out of the car, because it looked like one of the acts in the circus whenever 14 people got out of one car to go into a fast food restaurant. I also remember going to Battle Creek, Michigan, to the Kellogg's plant with all of us together, and each one of us getting a 6 or an 8-pack box of cereal. And when 14 of us got that, it was it just about cleaned out their storeroom.
She brought this handsome man into her life, and we had a bridal shower for Glenda and Tim. And all the ladies from church were there. Had a good time.
That was so meaningful to me at the time. I was in college and came home with my fiance, and you and Norm gave us a nice shower, and very good memories of that time.
I had taken an early retirement from the Ameritrust Company and really didn't know what I was going to do. Felt the Lord was calling me into ministry, but didn't know what I was going to do. And the pastor of my church, Donald Schaefer, contacted Stan Bjornson, who was then the director of what was known as Stewardship Ministries in the Christian Missionary Alliance. I was out of work at that time, had left my job with no prospects for anything else, and Stan called me in January and said, if I were to send you 2 plane tickets, would you and your wife come down to Southwest Florida and spend a few days with me? To an out-of-work guy in Cleveland in January, that was a no-brainer. So we came down, and as a result of that, began a 14-year career with Stan in Stewardship Ministries, which then became the Orchard Foundation, and got to know the place and decided this would be the place we would want to spend the rest of our lives.
I think there's a camaraderie here that is hard to replace. I've really enjoyed working with Norm. We've got a great relationship back and forth, and when we hit things that we just need to sit down and talk through, it comes very easily, and I'm grateful for that.
It's a real joy. It really is, because there's not often that we get to see people that we had worked with in youth group and children and so on grow up and take positions of responsibility where we worked. So it's been a great joy to have Glenda as a part of the church here, and we have thoroughly enjoyed being with her.
We're glad you joined us for today's show. Tune in next week for more stories and news from around your community. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for the weekend of June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. I'm Dan Philgreen, and from all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.